Hey folks, welcome back to Nodevember day 7. I'm saying day very loosely at this point. We are falling a few days behind, but I'm committed to getting all of these done. This one, the prompt was precious, and I really had no idea what I wanted to do with it. And then I was on a voice call with my partner trying to debug some fusion nodes, and it really just made me think about what was precious to me. And so this is a little animation of our conversation through FaceTime, which was really fun to do in geometry nodes. Not the kind of thing I would normally do, not the kind of style I would normally do. And it just came with a whole load of fun little challenges, like how do we stack all of these things? How do we do picture in picture for actually having both cameras on at the same time, so I can see both characters? And also, how do we animate them? How do we animate two characters talking, moving their heads? Animation timing, secondary animation, animation offsetting. So all of this stuff is fully done in the node graph. No keyframes whatsoever for the main character animation here. I did use keyframes to move the camera around at the end just to get a bit more interest in the like the parallax of the animation. But all of the character animation is done in geometry nodes. So the actual modeling is very basic, intentionally. So the iPhone model is just a quadrilateral curve, filleted corners, and then another quadrilateral curve with filleted corners swept along it, so curve to mesh. That just gave us the frame. You don't need the back of the phone because it's being covered by the front anyway. And then I just added a couple of buttons on the side, which are basically the same, just a quadrilateral curve, which I then extruded, or like filled and extruded, to give myself a nice little button shape. The characters, also pretty straightforward. I've just got like an icosphere for the head, and then all of the facial features are actually using the same model. So I just took a cube and I sort of squeezed it in the middle, and that became, in different scales, all of the eyebrows, the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, and the ears as well. For the hair, I wanted to give the main character like a fringe and a bob. And I thought that would be really fun to do the animation. So as the head moves forwards and backwards, the fringe can follow a few frames afterwards, and the rest of the hair as well. And it just gives it a little bit more fun, dynamic movement. Makes things feel a bit more floppy. And I also decided to add that same animation sort of offsetting to things like the eyebrows and the eyes and the mouth, so that everything feels like it's really sliding around and is a bit more stylized. Went with little teddy bear koala ears for these, just to make them a little bit more cute. And also for the hair, rather than it just being the meshed geometry, I created the fringe pieces out of an arc. So arc spline, which I did curve to mesh with a curve line just to kind of create a ribbon. Instanced a bunch of those of different widths along another arc to give us this sort of fringe shape. And then I used that, and I also used a part of the main head sphere, which I just masked out. Used that with like a geometry proximity to give myself a distance field, and then use that into a volume cube node. So very simple, very basic SDF workflow, not using the new volume nodes, but I actually did use the mesh to SDF grid and then sample grid nodes to create a distance field from the ears, just so that I could easily take a little bit of influence from them away from the hair to kind of create a dip where the ears go. The jumper is a very similar process, essentially just taking a bunch of primitives to create the volumes. Nothing too fancy, it's mostly going to be cropped out on the display. And then I think I did use the mesh to SDF grid and sample grid, and then combined them in a volume cube. I need to do a bit more exploring with the SDF nodes to learn more about how they work together, but just for now, just for sort of this quick sketching, just using things which I already know a little bit. And then for the collar, that was a bit more interesting. I took an arc and instanced a bunch of them up a curve line, which I then changed the radius of as it went up the curve line, and I trimmed the top ones differently to the bottom ones, so the collar kind of splayed out. Then, yeah, that was all just merged together with the volume to mesh stuff. The actual animation, pretty straightforward. I think people get a bit stressed about animating in geometry nodes, but you've got your scene time, So you got your frame number in the node tree right there. You've got a map range, so you can remap your frame range, in my case 0 to 300 or 1 to 300, to be a 0 to 1 value. As soon as you got 0 to 1, you can put it through a float curve. So now you essentially do have animation curves. Not super complicated and not a lot of control because you don't have like Bezier handles or anything like that. But for something basic like this, something very stylized and sketchy, you don't need a lot. So you really can do all of your transforms with that. And then you've got data now. You've got 0 to 1 data. You can just plug that into whatever you need. So you could even go through another map range to change your variation. Maybe you're going from like 0 to 1 becomes -2 radians to +2 radians, and you can plug that into some rotation. Or yeah, and because you have it in the node graph, I basically made one node group that went onto the noodles in loads of different places and took the incoming geometry through just a geometry, like a transform geometry node, and then passed it straight out. So I had all of my animation in one place, made it much easier for me to, work and iterate and tweak things. And it also meant that I could connect things like the sort of the general rotation of the head. If I wanted it to nod, but I wanted the eyebrows to follow that. The eyebrows weren't being rotated, they were being moved up and down in the z-axis. So I can just take my X rotation, which was affecting the tilt of the head, and then I could just use that, multiply it by something, but then just use that for my Z transform on the eyebrows. And this basically just happened all the time. And I wanted to take the general motion, those long float curves that you maybe saw me do a little bit earlier with all the little tweaks, put both of those, so I had one for my X, one for my Z, put both of those into a node group with the 0 to 1 value coming in at the beginning. So then all I needed to do was duplicate that group, because that's got all of my animation in it, and take my scene time node and just add or subtract some values to it before plugging it into this group again to use elsewhere. And that would just basically mean that the animation had been shifted in time forwards or backwards. So the head could rotate, but then the eyes could follow a couple frames later, the mouth could follow a couple frames later, the hair as well, and the ears as well, they would rotate a little bit differently. And it just made everything look a bit floppy. It's just really stupid animation, like really goofy, but also very fun, very cute. For the materials and the look, I wasn't really sure how to do this. I wanted something that was pretty cartoony and pretty flat, but quickly found that I didn't have the practice to make that look good. So ended up doing a simple lighting setup and basically just very simple colors, but with a lot of masks. So in my geometry nodes graph, I had a store named attribute storing booleans for things like the skin, the eyes, the eyebrows, the mouth, the jumper, the hair, the ears. And then with all of that data, I'm able to mask out between different flat colors that I wanted. For something like the jumper, where I have a sort of a star pattern, I wanted to create UVs to go on there. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do, because you've got this volume to mesh creating very ugly geometry, and also as there's animation happening before the mesh is created, then it's shifting through space, so it's difficult to kind of create a UV map that's consistent for that and that doesn't slide. So what I ended up doing was sampling based on the original the simple primitives, and I was able to do that for this because it was so basic, but I basically sampled the UV map from them onto the new geometry. And for the head, because it's just a sphere, I just used the default UVs that the node comes with. So with all that done, I could just stick a Voronoi, I can't remember which algorithm it is, the one with the stars, maybe Minkowski. And then the face, I added some little cheek blushes, which is really simple, just a distance on that UV map. And then also Voronoi masked to an area for that sort of nose bridge area. The masks are also used for controlling things like subsurface scattering on the face, roughness across all the different bits, and the phone obviously has metallic buttons as well, and like the little recording indicator and the dynamic island at the top. So lots of just masking and flat colors. And then the lighting is also pretty basic. I added a cold light in front of both of the characters just to kind of create that illusion like they're holding a phone or holding some kind of display in front of them. And just some other general sort of quite flat lighting, but it works quite well. I did have to add like fins in between the characters. So I basically lined everything up with either a 15 or a 20 meter gap in between, just to separate things out. So I had the phone at the origin, and then I had the main character and then the secondary character. And the way that we pulled these onto our device was by setting each of the, so I had geometry for the main screen, I had geometry for the little secondary screen, and I just used a portal BSDF on both of those displays and set the position, so position plus some vector in the x-axis to slide that across. And then I also didn't want it to be completely dependent on the view direction, because I wanted the screen to feel a bit flat, but not completely flat, because I didn't want it to be like a totally two-dimensional display. So we still get a little bit of parallax when we rotate the device, which feels a bit more magical. So I'm mixing basically a little bit of vector math in there between the incoming ray and some defined position where I wanted the camera to be faked, essentially. If you want to know how I set up that shader, check the link down in the description. You can find the file for free on Patreon. You can just download it there. So there we have it. That was precious. Hope you had fun. Hope you learned something. And I'll catch you in the next one.